So my name is Kat, like Tess mentioned, and I really want to talk to you folks about chatbots and messaging experiences. One thing I want to note before I kind of get into this is that I never considered myself a bot person. And when I say that, I mean I wasn't particularly excited about what all we could do with bots or the idea of, using AI to do all these exciting things. And that kind of has changed for me recently. And that's why I'm really excited to tell a few of you about it, just in case you've ever kind of wondered what is this whole chatbot thing even, or you're thinking about building a product or your next product, you should consider doing a chatbot experience. And I'd be happy to chat more about that with you afterwards. As mentioned, I'm the head of product at Digit, and I'm actually going to be talking a lot about that product during this. So I want to give you a little bit of context. And Digit is effectively an automated savings tool. So it connects to your checking account and just sneakily pulls money aside that it thinks you can afford. And I think a lot of people think of us as one of the original sort of chatbots before kind of the craze sort of hit in the last year and a half. But one thing that I do want to mention is that we didn't start off saying, in a very thought leader-esque way, this is the future, we're going to build a chatbot experience. We wanted to test this idea of, will people let us sneakily pocket, bits of their money here and there? And the fastest way to do that was actually through building a messaging experience, because we didn't have to think about UIs, we didn't have to think about how it would interact on different platforms. We're just going to, build right on top of the existing SMS domain. So I think most of you have kind of heard this whole chatbot thing recently, and it's a pretty buzzy word. But beneath the buzz, I think there's a lot to be really excited about. And you can probably tell from this talk, I'm super excited about some of the things that are happening. So to kind of give you a quick preview, here are some of the ones that I think are really exciting. Some of you may have tested this app. Quartz came out with a new news app a few months ago, and one of the things that I really wanted to highlight is this paradigm that they're doing at the bottom of my GIF on this in a second. These kind of suggested responses here, and they're really fast and easy, and they're kind of obscuring the fact that you can't actually enter anything else in, but they're doing it in a messaging interface that feels really live and gives you a whole new way to kind of interact with the news. Another one that I love is Operator, and I think it's supposed to be for recommending gifts to get for other people, but I've actually used it mostly to buy things for myself, whatever that says about me. So you notice this is a real GIF of me buying shampoo through Operator. But one of the things that I love that they do is they switch seamlessly between bots and human operators, and one of the nice things that they do is they put the human operator's initials up there in that little box in the corner to make it really clear, and there's no confusion of who am I talking to right now, did it switch people, and I think that's a great touch. One of the other ones that I'm really excited about, and you can see we've been playing around with the Messenger platform, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I love that this is a space that's really evolving right now, and Messenger, you'll notice in some of my GIF over here is using the same sort of paradigm that I think Quartz kind of did in terms of suggested responses, but it also lets the user, enter in free form, how they want to communicate, even if it is outside of these suggestions. And I think this is a really neat in-between that makes it natural and fast to communicate with the bot and know what sort of responses you can use. So relatedly, as most of you know, a lot of the big players are entering this space right now, and that's something to be excited about. That means that there are people like Facebook Messenger that are doing things like this and constantly coming out with some of the new paradigms, and we're learning from what they're learning at a much larger scale. But also there are things like Apple and Google that are doing things on top of Siri and Google Assistant, which are totally new experiences. So we've been thinking a lot about the textual-based messaging experience, but now there's this whole new vocal one, and that's just this entirely new platform and experience with new potential opportunities. So as I mentioned, I was never really a bot person, but I was really sucked in by the kind of idea of automated savings, and I never considered myself as someone who's good with money. So I was like, this is great. This will force me to think more about how I'm using money and setting aside my own money. And I kind of wanted to share a few of the things that I learned, very personally while working on Digit. So first of all, in terms of building a chatbot or a messaging interface, it's really, really fast to iterate on, and you can test out new ideas and features almost as quickly as you can think of them. So what you see in this screenshot is actually my first feature that I shipped when I was at Digit for a tax refund feature. And basically what's happening is you kind of think of what the experience is that you want to enable through conversation, what kind of the possible avenues are, and then you can basically ship it. And within 3 messages, someone has set aside 40% of their tax refund. That's really powerful. There's no kind of UI, there's no thinking about the design or what it can look and feel like across different platforms. And this one I think is a little bit less obvious, but I really learned this, and I mentioned this, but we sort of backed into being a chatbot. We kind of chose that form of communication because it was the fastest to build on top of. But what we ended up finding was that for a product like Digit in the personal finance space, there's something really powerful about using kind of a chatbot messaging experience in terms of personal finance, and your financial matters are really sensitive and they're really emotional, and you get anxiety, and people avoid looking at their checking account because they think the balance is lower than it should be, and they kind of feel really stressed about that. But by building a chatbot experience, we were letting people engage with their money and manage it in a whole new way that actually ended up feeling really approachable. So like I said, we did not come into it with any sort of, we're geniuses, this is really working out. We just kind of found out that as we built it, this was actually a really powerful form for topics that are so kind of sensitive and near and dear to the heart. The third thing that I learned is that by building kind of chatbot and messaging experiences, you get really unique insights into how people think about and talk about your products. And it's different from having people write into support because they know they're going to be talking to a human. But now you see people, and for Digit especially, you can't do anything through a visual UI. If you want to withdraw any of the money you've saved, if you want to know how much you've saved, you need to message Digit. And we do have some, kind of quick, shortcut commands, but most of it is happening through, how people actually talk about it. Hey Digit, how much have I saved so far? I need to move all my money back in to pay my rent, that kind of thing. And we can really understand what sort of value people are getting out of the product and how they talk about it. And that's neat. It kind of gives us a better idea of what we're building and how people are perceiving it. So this last one is kind of the opposite of the embracing the unknown. Like I mentioned, we found out that this messaging chatbot experience ended up being really great for what we were building, but at the same time, what I really learned and what our users kept telling us was that being able to see your money is important. And it's not the same thing to be able to look at an app and see this, $1,020 at the top of it versus seeing in an SMS, you have $1,020, and it's but where is that money? And I think it's easy to say, hey, we've discovered this whole new world. Let's just keep building only messaging experiences. But there's a lot we've learned from visual kind of UI paradigms, and throwing that out, I think, is a mistake. So we've kind of taken more of an approach of, where does it make sense to use what we've learned in terms of, things from UI, from gestures and, on your iPhone or on your Android phones, and lean into that where it makes sense. So that's all I have to talk about today. But please feel free to find me afterwards. I'm very happy to chat.